come, Ray. The one constant through all the years, Ray, has been baseball.
Little roller up along first. Behind the bag. It gets through Buckner. Here comes Knight, and the Mets win. Now the 2-1. Line drive to base hit. Just as the score of the tying run. Green to the plate. And he is safe. Safe at the plate. The Braves go to the World Series.
Have reserved seats somewhere along one of the baselines that sat when they were children and cheered their heroes.
Gibson swings and a fly ball to deep right field. This is going to be a home run. Unbelievable!
A 3-run home run for Bucky Dent. The Yankees now lead by a score of 3-2.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mazeroski has hit a 1-0 pitch over the left field fence at Ford Field to win the 1960 World Series.
They'll arrive at your door as innocent as children, longing for the past.
The Pope arrived at Yankee Stadium. As one enthusiastic announcer put it, he is standing on second base.
Reggie Jackson. Long drive right field. It is goodbye. Big World Series for Reggie.
The Blue Jays are World Series champions as Joe Carter hits a 3-run home run.
Back and throw. There's a left back. It's going to be, I believe, the Giants from the pennant. The Giants from the pennant. The Giants from the pennant.
The 0-1 pitch. A liner off Nagy's glove into center field. The Florida Marlins have won the World Series.
The memories will be so thick that I can brush them away from their faces.
The 1-0 delivery to Fisk. He swings, long drive, left field. If it stays fair, it's gone. Home run! The Red Sox win. And the series is...
Lolich fires. Ball is hit high in the air. This should be the series. Freehand waving everybody away in foul territory. Detroit wins.
Here's the pitch to Willie. Here's a liner straight to Richardson. The ball game is over and the World Series is over. Willie McCovey hit it like a bullet. A line drive right.
Baseball to mark the time.
The Oakland A's take. I'll tell you what, we're having a
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Candlestick Park for Game 3 of the 1989 World Series.
It's been erased like a blackboard, rebuilt and erased again.
Frank Robinson, the right-hand batter.
Long drive to left field. Way back. Gets hit right back.
Base hit loaded, 1 out. Pena in a jam. The Twins are going to win the World Series. The Twins have won it.
Ozzie with 1 out. Smith corks one into right down the line. It may go. Go crazy, folks. Go crazy. It's a home run. And the
Willie Mays just brought this crowd to its feet with a catch, which must have been an optical illusion to a lot of people.
This field, this game, is a part of our past, Ray. It reminds us of all that once was good, and it could be again.
Broadcasted live.
Who wants to have some fun?
There are balls coming from all over the place. Left field, center field, right field. See, this is the kind of thing, quite honestly, right now, that makes you want to see the Chicago Cubs team lose.
Now, you just saying you want to have fun, or do you really want to have fun?
It'll be fun.
Will the next person that sees anybody throw anything onto this field, point them out, or get them out of here. You don't live in Cleveland. You live in Cincinnati.
You talking to me? You talking to me?
That is the farthest thing in the universe from the truth.
Hello, everyone, live. It's the Dan Scott Show. And right there is your host, Dan Scott.
All right, good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Tuesday edition of the program. I am your host, Dan Scott. Very happy to have you with us. Hope that your day has gotten off to a good start, and if it has, we'll try not to mess it up for you. If it's been a little sluggish, then maybe we can do something to provide you with a lift before the show is done. And as always, we try to learn something we did not know before the show is all said and done, and a lot easier for some of us than it is for others. It is a very, very nice, but also very, very cold day here in the upstate. And you can see my little suggestion to you. The time to panic is now, because the forecast is calling for snow overnight tonight and into tomorrow in various and sundry places and to different degrees. Could be a few inches depending on where you live. It could be a dusting, but that doesn't matter. Go get your bread and milk today. Now it's officially time to panic here in the South. Snow is in the forecast. So it's our job, as far as doing our due diligence as a public entity here, to allow you that opportunity to panic and inform you that it's time to get your bread and milk and clean the grocery stores out completely, which is what I'm sure some of you are doing. You may notice the young man sitting beside me. This is not Forrest in a time warp, but this is Elijah. And Elijah is here job shadowing me today. He lost the lottery, and he finds himself sitting here today. Elijah, tell everybody your full name, how old you are, and where you go to school.
All right. My name is Elijah Jeremiah Aiken. I'm 11 years old, and I go to Youth Leadership Academy.
And that's in Pickens County, right?
Yes, sir.
And that's the only charter middle school in Pickens County.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Elijah Jeremiah. Your dad wasn't trying to send a message, was he?
Maybe.
He doubled up on the profits.
That's true.
He is the son of my good friend Joel Aiken and his wife Jillian, who we have been telling you about. And he's got some job shadowing responsibilities to do, so he is in here in studio with us today and going to be hanging out and going to be answering some questions for him a little bit later on. Coming up on the show today, we've got a lot of college basketball to talk about, both in the Southern Conference and elsewhere. We also, and included in that, by the way, is another opportunity for Clemson's basketball team to snap one of the most, if not the most, egregious streaks in all of college sports. 58 times Clemson basketball has played North Carolina in Chapel Hill, and 58 times the Tar Heels have won. Clemson tries to snap that 0-for-58 streak tonight in Chapel Hill. We'll have some thoughts on that coming up in just a little bit. Did you hear the radio call of Paul Allen and his color guy on the final play of the game, that insane play in which the Vikings beat the Saints to advance to the NFC Championship game? If you didn't, we're going to have it for you. We're going to give you a bit of the interview that he did on the Dan Patrick Show yesterday, and then talk about some of the dynamics that went into that call and maybe what the engineers should have been doing that he didn't do, or the on-site producer. We'll talk about that a little bit. Couple of significant notes in the world of college football about players deciding not to enter the NFL draft, and some of the hilarious comments that has elicited from opposing fan bases. One in particular, and you probably have a pretty good idea where I'm going. We're also holding out hope that we may have an in-studio guest with us today. It just depends on if he gets out in time of a staff meeting downstairs. In fact, I got an email just now, and okay, it looks like we were hoping Connor Shaw would be with us today, but it looks like he can be with us either tomorrow or Thursday. So book Connor Shaw probably for Thursday's show here live in studio as we as we prepare for the remainder of this week. So a lot to get to today, and we'll start it when we come back. But first, as we get set to go to break, I'll tell you about our friends at the Atlanta Bread Company. They are located in Cherrydale Plaza, of course, and have been just phenomenal to me in this program, helping us get the show off the ground. The food is fantastic. The people are great. And as I've been telling you, this time of year especially, for whatever reason, it's their most popular time of the year. Well, I know the reason. It's because of the selection of hot soups and chili and hot sandwiches and hot beverages that they have that seem to warm the soul on these cold winter days. That's the Atlanta Bread Company. Please stop by and tell them thank you for what they've done here on this program. And they're located, again, in Cherrydale Plaza. All right, we'll take a break and come back and continue with more on this edition of the Dan Scott Show right after this.
Hey, Furman fans, it's baseball season. Here at Ingalls, we know that as you root for the home team, sometimes you want more than just peanuts and Cracker Jack. And while we do deliver on your favorite ballpark classics, we're proud to offer a packed lineup of everything you need to make your next meal a home run. Ingalls, a proud sponsor of Furman Baseball and the official grocery store of Furman Athletics. Go Dins!
The Atlanta Bread Company at Cherrydale Point offers a dining experience that will have you coming back for more time and time again. Everything is freshly made on site, including the different varieties of bread and all the baked goodies. And the menu, Atlanta Bread Company offers a wide variety from hot soups and chili to hot and cold sandwiches and paninis. Even breakfast selections topped off with your choice of piping hot coffees. Come see for yourself. You'll love it. The Atlanta Bread Company at Cherrydale Point, proud sponsors of the Furman Paladins and the Dan Scott Show.
Looking for a good lunch spot in the Travelers Rest area? The Cafe at Williams Hardware is your place. Williams Hardware has food for the whole family, from the famous Reuben to the barbecue chicken quesadilla and their daily lunch specials, which includes the award-winning BLT on pimento cheese with pepper jelly, served Tuesday to Thursday. Williams Hardware also serves breakfast on Saturdays from 8 to 11, perfect before Furman home game. And don't forget the gift shop, which offers items for anyone on your list. Go see your friends at the Cafe at Williams Hardware, 13 South Main Street in downtown TR. Full menu and operating hours at the Cafe at WilliamsHardware.com.
So you've got a busted phone or tablet screen. Time to get a new device? Nope. Time to give it CPR. CPR Cell Phone Repair at Cherrydale can repair almost any phone or tablet screen on the market and usually can do it same day. In fact, if you have an iPhone, the fix usually takes less than an hour. CPR Cell Phone Repair also can fix computers and gaming systems, both screens and hard drives. And they sell refurbished devices and new accessories. Stop by and see the new owner, Janet Culver, today and check them out on Facebook. That's CPR Cell Phone Repair at Cherrydale, 864-282-9097. Give it CPR today. Welcome back to the show. I am your host, Dan Scott, and this is Elijah. He is job shadowing me today, and we're happy to have him and happy to have you joined with us as well. College basketball last night. Of course, we missed yesterday because I had some major computer issues, so I didn't really get a chance to talk about Furman and Wofford on Saturday. And first things first, impressions of the facility there. They did a really nice job. Of course, as Bob Ritchie said last night, when you invest $50 million in something, you better do a nice job with it. But it's a cozy little facility. They have built all of the seats, even what few second deck seats they have, are very close to the floor. And I was telling Tom Van Hoy during the broadcast on Saturday night that when he and Bryant Lambert broadcasted from Cameron Indoor, they were upstairs in that temporary thing. When I broadcasted from there 4 years ago, we were actually still in the crow's nest. But I have sat on the floor on press row in Cameron Indoor Stadium, the home of the Duke Blue Devils, and literally the students who are standing there are right on top of you to the point where knees are in backs and they're breathing down your neck and so forth and so on. The one thing they did at the Jerry Richardson Indoor Stadium was not build any significant room between press row and the first row of the stands. And the fans literally are right on top of the court, which means they're even more right on top of everybody on press row. And we were joking during the broadcast because we had we were privy to some pretty intimate conversations and comments that were made by a couple of people, particularly behind us, towards the officiating crew that night. It's one of those things that just the proximity of the fans, it really couldn't be helped. That would be the only complaint, and that's not even really a complaint. There's just not a whole lot of room between the first row of the bleachers and the press row. They've really made everything compact, right on top of the floor, 3,400 seats. Technologically, it is state-of-the-art. They did a really nice job with it. I was impressed with what Wofford did. And then once the game started, it was a very odd game for the Paladins because they would play extremely well for 4 or 5 minutes, and then they would play poorly for 4 or 5 minutes. And it went on like this all throughout the game. I mean, they fall behind by, I think it was 9 points early on, come storming back to take a lead, end up trailing at halftime, got down by, 5 or 7 points in the second half, came back and took the lead again and went up by 5. It seemed to have all the momentum, and just as quickly as they got it, it went away. And Wofford went on a 14-0 run and ended up pulling away with the win. It was very odd. I mean, you expect momentum changes and different runs by teams as the game goes on. That happens in practically every college basketball game. But what doesn't happen is usually is the extremities in which those runs take place. And as I said, the Paladins would play really well for 4 or 5 minutes, and then they would play not so well for 4 or 5 minutes. And you know, you give Wofford credit. They did what they do. There were some defensive issues that Furman had that, you know, you look at what Cam Jackson did. He scored 20 points. You know, he scored 24 in the loss at Furman last year. Kid's a heck of a player. You expect him to play well. You know what you're going to get out of Fletcher McGee. And to be honest with you, I thought that Furman did a good job of defending him for the vast majority of the night. But the one guy they didn't defend, they had some issues with some switches and some other miscommunications, was the Stump kid. And he goes for a career high. And then Nathan Hoover comes off the bench and hits him up for 13. So, you know, you're worried about those couple of frontline guys, and then you have a guy go for a career high and Hoover coming off the bench having the night that he had. So, I mean, they can hit you in a lot of different ways. I know Bob he was happy with some aspects of the performance, not happy with quite a few aspects of the performance, and mostly, of course, the fact that they came up on the short end of the score, 79-70. What that does is give Furman its first loss in conference play, and makes the top half of this league even that much tighter as we have passed the halfway point of the first half of the conference season. I mean, you think about it, by the time we get through this time next week, and counting Tuesday night, we will have only one more game to go in the first half of the conference season. That's how quickly this thing has gone. But the Paladins still 4-1 in the league, still 13-5 overall, and 2 big games coming up at home this week. Thursday with ETSU, which is also at the top of the league and maybe playing better than most people thought they were going to. And then Samford comes in on Saturday. And Samford is coming off of a blowout loss at Mercer, a 31-point loss at Mercer, by the way, 81-50 on Saturday. And then we'll talk more about this in a minute. But Mercer turns around and has to, last night, go to overtime to beat Chattanooga. It's Chattanooga's second straight overtime loss. They fell to the Citadel in OT as well. So it's, again, you talked about it with Bob on his show last night. It can get cliche when you talk about it so much, but it doesn't make it any less true. You just never know from night to night in this league what you're going to get, what's going to happen. And even the bottom feeders can jump up and cause you issues, as Mercer found out with Chattanooga last night. But the Paladins still in good shape, obviously. One loss is not going to win this league. That's going to be a league where you're going to have battles among those top 4 or 5 teams night in and night out the rest of the way. And, last year it was 3 teams with 4 losses in the league that tied for first place in the regular season championship. I would not be surprised if the league regular season champion doesn't end up with 3 or maybe 4 losses again before this thing is all said and done. That was Furman and Wofford the other night. Last night in SoCon play, we mentioned that Chattanooga at home goes to overtime or takes Mercer to overtime, but falls 75-71. And then Western Carolina beats VMI 65-58. Waiting to see where that game was in Cullowhee. I may have misspoken on the Mercer and Chattanooga game by saying that game was in Chattanooga. But anyway, those were your two conference games last night. A couple of rare Monday night games inside the SoCon. I'm waiting on my computer to. The thing is running slow and seems to be getting more and more in that direction every day, more slowly as the days go on. But in any event, right now at the league, the standings, ETSU, the only undefeated team in the league, they are 5-0. Furman is 4-1. UNCG and Wofford are 3-1. Western Carolina 4-2, and Sanford is 3-2. And then after that, Mercer now 2-3, the Citadel 1-4, VMI 0-5, Chattanooga 0-6. So that's what the Southern Conference looks like as we clear Monday's games last night. When we come back, we'll take a look at what else went on in the top 25, look at some national storylines, and then also get you into a couple of the other stories that I want to talk about today, including maybe a bit of the Paul Allen interview from the Dan Patrick Show, and then talking about the decision by Clemson's entire defensive line to come back for its senior season, what that means, and the hilarity of some of the comments being made by a certain opposing fan base. We'll get into that and much more as this edition of the Dan Scott Show continues. Before we go out, let me remind you about our friends at OpSource Staffing. They are an independent, faith-based, privately held staffing, recruiting, and workforce management company that began in 2007 with a mission to serve and connect great people to great companies. With OpSource, it's all about the relationship, not the transaction. They believe that by building relationships, they'll become an integral part of your overall staffing experience. They currently have 5 branches located in Greenville, Spartanburg, Gaffney, Charleston, and Arden, North Carolina, and they're providing contractors to companies in the manufacturing industry. That's mostly what they do. Call today to find out how OpSource Staffing can streamline your contract workforce for the better. 866-870-8133. That's toll-free, 866-870-8133, or online at OpSource. That's opsourcestaffing.com. To break we go, and then back with more after this. Don't go away.
Stuck in a state of falling behind? Struggling to keep up with your kids, finances, insurance? Then let State Farm agent Steve Borkland in Traveler's Rest help you simplify and get to a better state. Because with Steve handling your auto, home, and life insurance, you'll have more time for everything else. More money too, because adding State Farm policies could mean earning discounts worth up to 40%. That's money Steve can help you put towards a college savings plan. Call State Farm agent Steve Borkland today and get to a better state with State Farm.
Let me tell you something, Cowboy. This rookie can really bring the heat.
He's smoky and spicy with a Chipotle style all his own.
It's a new Montgomery Inn Chipotle barbecue sauce. Make it a part of your home team.
Available now at your neighborhood grocer or online at CincyFavorites.com.
The madness begins here. Make sure you're at the U.S. Cellular Center in Asheville, North Carolina, March 1st through 5th for the 2018 SoCon Basketball Championships presented by General Shale. Watch your favorite SoCon teams compete for a championship and a berth in the NCAA tournament, and take part in exciting events like the Downtown Dribble and the Ingles Jam Fest. Book your travel and tickets by logging on to SoConHoops.com or by contacting the U.S. Cellular Center box office. The madness begins in Asheville. Get your tickets today.
All right, we are back. Good to have you with us as we continue on this edition of the Dan Scott Show. I'm Dan. This is Elijah doing some job shadowing today. Coach TB in the house. Good to see you and everybody else who has joined us as well. By the way, I was correct. I did misspeak. The game between Chattanooga and Mercer was at Mercer last night. So go figure this league. Mercer beat Sanford at home by 31 on Saturday. Quick turnaround on Monday and loses in overtime to Chattanooga, who had lost in overtime at the Citadel on Saturday. So back-to-back overtime losses on the road for Chattanooga. But somewhat surprising that they took Mercer to overtime. But that's, again, kind of a snapshot of this league. Top 25 action last night. Boston College wins again as they knocked off number 23 Florida State 81-77. Duke, a winner on the road at Miami of Florida 83-75. Unfortunately, my West Virginia Mountaineers blew a 16-point lead to really an undermanned Kansas team, which is only playing, I think, 7 scholarship players right now, and lost 71-66 in a top 12 battle inside the Big 12. And those were the only 3 games inside the top 25 last night. It was interesting last week in our conversation with Dave Glenn to talk about the 2 kids at Boston College who got away from the state of North Carolina and have helped Boston College to a 13-6 overall start this year. And they got another win last night, beating number 23 Florida State. I want to spend a little bit of time transition to some college football. You may have seen over the last couple of days the news that Clemson's frontline defensive line, practically all of whom were thought to be gone to the NFL, Christian Wilkins, Austin Bryant, Cleveland Farrell, and actually I think there were even 2 or 3 others who decided to stay, have really caught the college football world by surprise by electing to forego the NFL draft this year and stay in school for another shot at a championship. And that means that I think I saw this morning 7 starters will be coming back on that defense, which was among the tops in the country, right at the top in the country. And also out west, Stanford's Bryce Love, the runner-up in the Heisman Trophy voting, decided to bypass the draft, and he'll stay for his senior year at Stanford. But on the Clemson side of things, and this is what happens when you're in a rivalry, especially in a state like South Carolina, where the 2 biggest schools are the flagship schools. There are no professional sports teams, major league sports teams, no NFL, no Major League Baseball, no NBA. So college football here is king. And those are the two schools that garner, obviously, the most attention. And Clemson, as everybody knows, has gotten much more of that rivalry than South Carolina has in the history of the rivalry. In fact, South Carolina's best stretch, as most people know, I think, came when our new tight ends coach here at Furman, Connor Shaw, was the quarterback there. He never lost to Clemson in his 4 years at South Carolina. Remove that, and by and large, the success for South Carolina has been fleeting at best in this rivalry. And you see this in rivalries all across the country. This is the one, obviously, that has the most focus here. What's interesting, though, is the success and continued success and everything that's taken place over at Clemson, including the national championship, has elicited some fairly interesting comments online from Gamecock fans, up to the point where they're they are just flat out accusing Clemson of paying its players. And this is the logic. These guys are not going to go to the NFL because Clemson is paying them, and they're going to stay here to get paid for another year. That's the logic that has been floating out there on Twitter over the last couple of days, as one by one these defensive line studs have decided to stay. and you know, fans in a lot of ways and a lot of times is short for fanatic. And I just found it comical that someone would actually not just say that, but apparently believe it, when all of these guys, especially a guy like Christian Wilkinson, are passing up millions of dollars that they would get as first-round draft choices to come back to school. If they were being paid, they're not being paid the kind of money that they would get by going on into the NFL draft. Can you see the flaw in the logic? Can you see the flaw in the argument that they're being paid to stay in school? Sometimes you wonder how some people walk along the street every day and don't get run over by a bus. Honestly, you wonder how someone whose mind works like that is able to function on a regular basis, on a day in, day out basis. It really is mind-boggling that someone, and that's not just one. I mean, there's been a string of these things, these comments made, accusations, if you will, which is nothing more than Twitter fodder, something that nobody would have the guts to say in a forum where they actually had to be accountable, which is one of the things that I do not like about the internet, and I do not like about Facebook and Twitter and social media, because it gives you a forum to be a big man anonymously, basically. You don't have to have any accountability for anything that you say. But the idea that Clemson or any school would pay someone not to go to the NFL draft when by going to the NFL draft they were going to get millions of dollars. You know, I saw this morning from a national reporter, Dan Wolkin, who, in talking about this same subject, said that the 20th round draft, or the 20th pick overall in the first round this year, will be guaranteed something like $20 million. So why? I mean, can you see where we're going here? Can you see why the comments and the logic is, you know, and by using the word flawed, I'm really being nice, okay? But can you see where that's a head scratcher? You know, I know that jealousy is a green-eyed monster. I know that. I know that from my own life. I know that in things that I've had to deal with in the past, that you get jealous of something, you get envious of something, and it can cause you to do things and say things that in a more rational moment of thought you wouldn't do or you wouldn't say. I've had to deal with that personally. I know what that's like. But in the sports realm here, the same principles apply. You know, you want to be better than your rival. Well, work harder than them. Go out and raise more money than they do. Top their facilities. Do things to make yourself better, as opposed to sitting back and making comments. And look, I know we all know what happened after the '81 national championship, that they went on probation, and so the logic is, well, they paid for one, they've paid for another. I knowing what I know about Dabo Swinney, I highly doubt that something like that would ever happen. But that notwithstanding, the idea that if they were paying players, that they could pay them enough to keep them from going into the NFL draft and making millions of dollars is absurd, and lets you know the mindset with which we're dealing with. And I say, welcome to the internet. That's about as plain as I can put it. When you don't have to have any accountability for anything, when you don't have to really put your name and your reputation on the line in the anonymity of the internet, you can get away with a lot. And unfortunately, that's where we are in society today with social media. It has a lot of good to it, but it also has a downside, and this is the downside. And this is also a look into just the vast stupidity of certain fans. Just call it like it is. It's stupid. It's stupid to think that a school, Clemson or anybody else, would be paying, if they are buying players. Forget everything you know about Dabo Swinney or anybody else, and just say for a moment, okay, they are paying players. They're going to pay them enough not to go into the first round of the NFL draft and make millions of dollars. That's what you're trying to convince me. That's what you're trying to say to me. Come on. Give me a break, right? It's 10:38. We'll come back and get you into I want you to hear the Paul Allen call. I want you to hear Charles Barkley and Shaquille O'Neal losing their minds last night. Matter of fact, you'll get to see that here on the show. This is the Dan Scott Show. We'll return right after this.
Hey, Furman fans, it's baseball season. Here at Ingalls, we know that as you root for the home team, sometimes you want more than just peanuts and Cracker Jack. And while we do deliver on your favorite ballpark classics, we're proud to offer a packed lineup of everything you need to make your next meal a home run. Ingalls, a proud sponsor of Furman Baseball and the official grocery store of Furman Athletics. Go Dins!
The Atlanta Bread Company at Cherrydale Point offers a dining experience that will have you coming back for more time and time again. Everything is freshly made on site, including the different varieties of bread and all the baked goodies. And the menu, Atlanta Bread Company offers a wide variety from hot soups and chili to hot and cold sandwiches and paninis. Even breakfast selections topped off with your choice of piping hot coffees. Come see for yourself. You'll love it. The Atlanta Bread Company at Cherrydale Point, proud sponsors of the Furman Paladins and the Dan Scott Show.
Looking for a good lunch spot in the Travelers Rest area? The Cafe at Williams Hardware is your place. Williams Hardware has food for the whole family, from the famous Reuben to the barbecue chicken quesadilla and their daily lunch specials, which includes the award-winning BLT on pimento cheese with pepper jelly, served Tuesday to Thursday. Williams Hardware also serves breakfast on Saturdays from 8 to 11, perfect before Furman home game. And don't forget the gift shop, which offers items for anyone on your list. Go see your friends at the Cafe at Williams Hardware, 13 South Main Street in downtown TR. Full menu and operating hours at the Cafe at WilliamsHardware.com.
So you've got a busted phone or tablet screen. Time to get a new device? Nope. Time to give it CPR. CPR Cell Phone Repair at Cherrydale can repair almost any phone or tablet screen on the market and usually can do it same day. In fact, if you have an iPhone, the fix usually takes less than an hour. CPR Cell Phone Repair also can fix computers and gaming systems, both screens and hard drives. And they sell refurbished devices and new accessories. Stop by and see the new owner, Janet Culver, today and check them out on Facebook. That's CPR Cell Phone Repair at Cherrydale, 864-282-9097. Give it CPR today. All right, we are back, and it is 10:40, about 20 minutes till the top of the hour. Hey, Hall's Chop House is the Greenville Steakhouse. They're located in downtown Greenville. Talked to Billy yesterday and waiting on him to make the final decision. But it looks like the live show, the live evening show, is going to be next week on either Tuesday or Thursday. And I'm really looking forward to getting down there and showing you everything there is to show you at Hall's Chop House. If you've never been, you're going to love it. Great food, starting with the Allen Brothers Prime Steaks, and the menu is fantastic. All kinds of meeting space, any corporate events that you may have, birthdays, anniversaries, anything you want to celebrate, they can accommodate you. And they are open every night for dinner, open for brunch on Sundays, live music all the time, and when the weather is good, an outdoor patio that you can spend some time with as well. They are located downtown. Again, the Greenville Steakhouse, that's Hall's Chop House, and hopefully by tomorrow we'll be able to zero in on exactly what day, make that announcement, and to get you ready to come out and see us down at Hall's. All right, I want to start with this video from last night. If you're like me, you don't follow the NBA. I don't follow it anymore. But what I did see this morning was worth the time. The Clippers and Rockets played last night out in Los Angeles, and apparently the game was very, very chippy. There was a lot of conversation, a lot of trash talking going on, tempers flaring, and when it was all said and done, apparently a group of Rockets led by former Clipper Chris Paul were not satisfied with the way things transpired on the floor. Paul, being familiar with the building, apparently was able to lead them through the corridor to a back entrance to the Clippers locker room, in which he and three other players kind of stood in the doorway yelling and challenging the Clipper players. They basically were posturing as they wanted to fight. And then the entire Clipper team kind of gathered around and said, okay, step into the locker room if you'd like to do so. And apparently none of them did. And according to at least one report I saw, Paul led them to the locker room area, but he kind of lingered in the back of those four players, kind of pushed the other three more towards the front. Anyway, security came, got him out of there, and then the police were called. And when the police were called, that is when that part of the story was revealed back in the studio on TNT's coverage. That's when Shaquille O'Neal and Charles Barkley absolutely lost their minds. Take a look at this clip. It's going to be very, very small, but you'll be able to see it and more importantly hear it and get the idea. But this was last night as that report was finalizing and then going back to the studio at TNT's coverage of the NBA. And right now all we have is a blank screen. Here it comes.
We will remember this. So this feeling, this tension between the two teams will continue on across games.
Rosgold on Woody, thank you very much.
They're not laughing at you.
No,
they're laughing at the insult. They don't believe these two guys. Charles, laugh.
Wait a minute.
I know why you're laughing.
Hey, I played in the NBA for 16 years, and I've been on TV for 18 years. It's the first time I ever heard police presence. They got, wait. They got a police presence? Are you kidding me? Wait, come on, man.
Numerous social media reports that LAPD was called.
LAPD was called.
See, these two, man.
Come on, man.
You know why they're laughing at me.
Come on, man.
Because they would.
Oh, man.
The issue
man,
is
y'all gotta stop it, man.
They would relish for a guy to come in the locker room after them.
Hey, Chuck. Hey, Chuck.
I don't know what this is, and I don't know why.
Hello, police. Chris Paul trying to beat me up. This is Blake Griffin. Chris Paul trying to get in the locker room. Get down here and save me. Wait. Yeah. Hey, this DeAndre Jordan. Mike D'Antoni trying to get in the locker room.
I certainly doubt that it was Clipper players who were requesting any kind of...
Somebody had to call the police.
Two guys who would relish guys coming in their locker room.
Come on, man.
Are laughing at the fact
Jack,
that Chris Paul
police
is coming to get Blake Griffin.
Oh,
by the way, Trevor Ariza's birthday.
I'm sorry, America.
June 30th, in case Blake Griffin actually is going to go to the party.
Yeah, Charles Barkley and Shaquille O'Neal. Can you imagine either one of those guys requesting police presence had someone come in to their locker room? I don't think so. I thought that reaction was pretty priceless and tells you all you need to know really about the NBA, I think, in a lot of ways today. 10:46. I want to get to the interview that Paul Allen did with Dan Patrick on his show yesterday. But as that interview begins, the clip of Paul Allen's call of the Minneapolis Miracle, the Case Keenum touchdown pass to Stephon Diggs that scored the game-winning touchdown as time expired, was obviously one of the great moments really in the history of the NFL. And in fact, it's the first time in NFL playoff history that a game-winning touchdown has been scored as time expired in regulation. It's the first time it's ever happened. If you have not heard that call, then I want you to take a listen to this, and then we may get to some of that interview, but I do want you to hear what that call sounded like, and then I've got some thoughts about it. Take a listen.
This is how it sounded as Case Keenum finds Stephon Diggs. The voice is Paul Allen of KFAN in Minneapolis.
10 seconds to go. 24-23 Saints. Vikings at their own 39. It's third down. Three receivers right, Thielen left. Marshawn Lattimore 12 yards from Adam. Case on a deep drop. Steps up in the pocket. He'll fire to the right side. Caught by Diggs. Stay up. Oh, my God. Oh, my God. 30. No. 10. Touchdown. Are you kidding me? It's a Minneapolis miracle. Stephon Diggs and the Minnesota Vikings have walked up on the New Orleans Saints. It's a 61-yard Minneapolis miracle. Are you kidding me? Look at these Vikings coaches. Yes! Let's go to Philadelphia.
Paul, when it's your year, it's your year. That's all I got to say.
Let's go to
Diggs,
Philadelphia.
what an unbelievable play.
It's going to be 48 and drizzly, and we're bringing a purple rain.
Paul Allen, KFAN, longtime voice for the Vikings, been calling games for 16 years now, just like it was scripted, Paul, right? Calm under fire.
DP, my best of the week was that moment. My worst of the week was when we led 17-0, had a missed field goal in front of halftime. Came out of halftime with the ball, chewed the clock. Keenum looked very good. Then things started to go pear-shaped. Here come the Saints with the Hall of Famer to be at quarterback, and they took the lead. That was the worst of the weekend, but the best was the Minneapolis Miracle.
Set this up for people to understand from a play-by-play point of view, because you're very businesslike to start. Almost resigned. It feels like you're resigned to the fact that we got 10 seconds left, and I don't know, maybe we get a field goal last second, but it feels like we're going to lose, and we should have won this game, and here we go with more postseason heartache. What were you thinking?
Yeah, from my standpoint, I mean, I've done it 16 years. We've had some big moments, like 03 at Sun Devil Stadium, 2009 NFC title game, 2015 Blair Walsh misses a 27-yard kick. And for me, I mean, I script scene setters for early in the game, but I don't script anything for late in the game. And I'm thinking, where do we need to get to give Kai Forbath a fair chance to walk off a winner? And his career long was with the New Orleans Saints in 2012 at Houston, 57 yards. So I'm fixated on getting to the 40 with an opportunity to give him at least a 57-yard try. And, then when that transpires and you got the rookie safety Marcus Williams, who had a fantastic year with 4 picks, he does what he does, and he runs into his teammate Ken Crawley. And, the play, from what I understand, to Diggs was designed for him to catch it and go out of bounds. But when he looked ahead, Dan, and there was nobody in front of him, and he just galloped into the end zone, and we won. I mean, it's unbelievable. And, Radio 101, man, you're the best in the business. You know that there are certain situations that pop up for which you just cannot plan, and that was one of them.
The expectations starting this game are what?
The expectation starting the Eagles game?
No, this game against New Orleans. How did you think this was going to play out?
I thought the Vikings absolutely would win. I was flabbergasted when the best defense in the NFL, giving up 12 points a game at home, was being shredded by Breeze in the offense. And that's with a lot of respect for New Orleans, one of the great offenses in the last decade of football for sure. I mean, so cocksure. They're on a 3rd and 1. They do a double pass with Willie Snead to Alvin Kamara, who blew by our guys like they were tied to posts. And it was inches from working. I mean, the fortitude to try that play, are you kidding me? And it almost worked. So this is a very high-end offensive operation. The Vikings defense is equally high-end. And the expectation into the game was that the Vikings were going to grind out a victory predicated on defense. Funny, along the way they won it on offense.
But when the Saints took the lead, I texted the Danettes when the Saints weren't even leading yet. And I said, how is New Orleans still in this game? And then all of a sudden they take the lead. What was that feeling like in the building?
Well, the emotional twist of the game, I mean, outside of like New England against Tennessee, so infrequently do teams dominate from the first second all the way to the end of the game, specifically in the divisional round of the playoffs. So, I mean, we're kicking the bleep out of them up 17-0. The Vikings' third down defense is 25%. That's historically maybe the best in the history of the NFL. And Breeze had a 0 passer rating at the end of the first quarter. That's Drew Brees. So it was working exactly the way I thought it was going to work, or I hoped it would work. And then here they come, like that well-oiled offensive machine Sean Payton runs. And we were taking haymakers, and then Lutz hits the kick. The most underrated play of the game, Dan, was before Will Lutz hit that 43-yarder to give them the lead. It's 3rd and 1. They run Kamara up the middle, and Brian Robinson and backup safety Anthony Harris stopped him. If they get that first down, the game's over because Lutz isn't going to miss, and we're never going to get the ball back.
He's Paul Allen, the longtime voice for the Minnesota Vikings on KFAN in Minneapolis. 16 years he's been calling and joining us on the Dan Patrick Show. Now you go into Philadelphia. You got to. At what point do you think Mike Zimmer says, "All right, now let's leave this behind. We got to think about Philadelphia"? Is he going to let them enjoy it today, or is it ended last night?
I think that's the A topic into the week. And, they're going to get together. They're starting to get together now. They'll rewatch the game. Mike will have his press conference at 2 o'clock Central. And then the cliched NFL 24-hour rule is in play. I mean, seriously, you can't believe what we experienced at the end of the Saints game is the end of the road. I mean, there may not be a level of excitement experienced until you hoist the Lombardi greater than what Stephon Diggs pulled off yesterday, but there is a bigger prize. And the Super Bowl being in Minneapolis, now you got to go to Philadelphia. The crowd's going to be against you. The Vikings had the crowd on their side yesterday. And, I look back to when the Titans pulled off the Music City Miracle and Flacco and I think Jacoby Jones got over the top on the Broncos in the playoffs. Those teams not only came back off that emotion to win the next week, they both went to the Super Bowl. So that's not a guarantee the 2017 Vikings get to the Super Bowl, but you can come back from moments like this.
All right, that was a bit of Paul Allen on the Dan Patrick Show yesterday. At the beginning, when you heard the clip, you heard the color guy for the Vikings absolutely losing his mind, and I've got mixed feelings about that. I think that's an area where the producer, the engineer, probably should have lowered the volume on his microphone a bit, because you couldn't make out everything Paul Allen was saying as he was continuing to call the play and the immediate aftermath of the play because of the color guy screaming into the microphone. But at the same time, I understand the excitement. I remember back in 2013 when Furman is playing Wofford here on this field, and you win that game, you win a share of the Southern Conference Championship and the automatic bid to the playoffs, and fell behind, I think, 14-0 in that game, came storming back, and Wofford is driving late in the game, and they've got a 4th and 1 deep in Furman's territory, down, I think, 7, and Furman stops them on that 4th down play to take possession of the game. And I remember the call, and I was actually searching for the clip because it just came to mind as I was listening to that again, and I don't have it here. It must be archived somewhere on one of my computers at home. But I actually had to stop talking because my then color guy, Corey Stewart, and spotter at the time, Robbie Ross, were about to knock the radio booth down. I mean, Corey, I remember screaming, he's short, talking about where the spot was going to be. And, papers are flying up in the air. Robbie and Corey go into a full embrace, and they're jumping up and down. And meanwhile, I'm trying to describe what's going on here in the play, and I just have to stop and kind of let all of that madness go on. So, it's a fine line you walk because that emotion is part of it, but the most important thing is the description as to what happens. And I guess the bottom line is that if you're a Minnesota fan, you knew something good had happened by the reaction, and it just took a little bit to maybe ascertain exactly what if you were only listening to it on the radio. I always go back to Marty Brenneman and Joe Nuxall. And whenever Marty, Marty did and still does innings 1 and 2, 5 and 6, and 8 and 9. And Joe always did, and now Jeff Brantley does the 3rd and the 4th inning and the 7th inning. But when Marty was on the call and somebody for the Reds hit a home run, you could always hear Joe in the background going, "Get out of here, get out of here." But never so loud that it overpowered what Marty was doing. Flash forward to September the 11th, 1985, when Pete Rose got the base hit that surpassed Ty Cobb for the all-time hits leader, and you've heard the radio call of that, I'm sure. Joe is right on microphone, and he is yelling into the microphone, and he kind of overpowers Marty's call a little bit. Those of us who are Reds fans, hey, that's Joe. We're fine with it. If you're just an objective fan listening to that Minnesota game, you're kind of wondering what in the world is going on. If you're a Vikings fan, you're thinking, yeah, that's pretty much typical for our broadcast crew, and you're cool with it. So, I don't know. When I first heard it, I was very critical of the color guy. And then as I got to thinking, well, it's happened in my own broadcasts as well. And that's really, in our instance, I am the engineer. So, I can't do everything. I can't worry about turning somebody's volume down while I'm calling a play and doing those kind of things. There's just only so much one person can do. But at the bigger schools or at the NFL level, you've got an engineer who is controlling everything sound-wise. And I'm just thinking that maybe that engineer should have brought the volume level of the color guy's microphone down just a little bit. But you know what? The engineer was probably losing his mind too. So it's easy to say and always not always quite so easy to do. Anyway, hope you had some fun with that. Hope you enjoyed the program today. Tomorrow, Dave Glenn will be with us to talk all things Atlantic Coast Conference. And then Thursday, Connor Shaw will be here in studio, the former Gamecock quarterback and now Furman tight ends coach. And then Friday, it looks like Brett Harker is going to be here, and we are going to do a baseball preview with Coach Brett Harker. So got a busy week lined up for you. Hope that you'll be on board with us for the rest of the week. Anything you want to say before we get out of here?
No, sir.
You sure?
Yes, sir.
I mean, this is your big moment.
Hi, Mom.
I love it. Typical athlete. Dad does everything to set it up, and he says, "Hi, Mom." That's the way it goes. Sorry, Joel. That's just the way things work. All right, that's Elijah. Thank you for coming and spending some time with us, and thank you, as always, for watching and tuning in. Until tomorrow, I'm Dan Scott. God bless you, and so long, everybody.